Listen, I remember watching the first one back in the before times in a jam-packed theater where if you coughed during the quiet parts, everyone would notice. And now, you sniffle during the loudest action sequences and everyone's ready to escort you out. In my opinion, if you're looking for a crazy story that expands on the creature's origins, I would say to wait for it as a rented. And I even believe Paramount Plus is touting that they're going to have it there. But to be honest, if you do want that cinematic experience and you want to feel the full sound, then I would give it a junior price. While we don't get to learn what makes the aliens tick, we do get to see the characters grow and a bunch of action pieces that I do believe deliver.
You know, the truth is I had no intention of doing a sequel. I don't think anyone thought that there would be a sequel. This was never designed to be a franchise.
So while they keep saying that it's not a sequel but a continuation, I will say it's still $16 out of my pocket. Let me explain. So the metaphor of the first one was clearly parenthood.
So 3 weeks before I read the original script by Beck and Woods, we had our second daughter. Emily had our second daughter. I was just there to watch.
So he was really focused on that idea of struggling to keep your kids safe from the dangers of this world and knowing that it's impossible to keep that promise. And we see that with his character's sacrifice.
Spoiler alert.
Who are we if we can't protect them?
And now he sees this one as being the aftermath to that, of the kids having to grow up and do it on their own. And so they have to leave the farm, venturing out farther than they've ever had before. So technically it should be called A Quiet Places. The movie does actually begin with a flashback to day number 1 so that John can get those sweet residuals. And we see them at a baseball game where something crazy starts falling from the sky. Now, have the kids aged more than Walt and Aaron from Lost? Yeah, but while it's fair to argue that the scene was unnecessary, damn was it badass. The reason that shot is so awesome of Blunt driving away from a bus going 45 miles an hour is because they shot Blunt driving away from a bus going 45 miles an hour.
Are you asking, did I put a child that's under 6 years old in a moving car that had stuff flying at it? Yeah, I did. And I'm probably going to jail for it. But
the only thing we really learned from the intro is that the aliens did come from the sky and landed in different countries, and also that Krasinski knows how to shoot some good long takes. The editing also does a fantastic job at combining different scenes throughout, even match cutting to the present as it forwards 474 days right to the end of the last movie, where we see that they did kill the remaining creatures that were approaching them. And damn, looking back at the first and realizing that it took place in 2020, and they really hit the nail on the heel.
And I think if the first film was almost like, how do you avoid getting cut? I feel like the essence of this film is, oh my God, how do we stop the bleeding?
They venture away from the farm, showing you more feet than a Tarantino movie on their journey, and somehow they don't come across any monsters or Legos, making them one of the luckiest families. So one of them breaks a leg. My leg! Now personally, I think the bear trap scene was much better than the random nail that was going up in the first, but poor Noah's always forced to be the quietest one in these movies. They end up meeting Cillian's character named Emmett, who we had seen in the flashback scene, and he's become a full-out hermit. His wife has just recently died, and 28 days later, he's still keeping her body out there in the warehouse. And there was a conversation in the first about surviving versus thriving, something that the parents kept arguing about, where Lee always wanted to keep his family safe first and foremost, but Evelyn wanted her kids to not live in fear. So not only does she feel the guilt now in this one, but you even see it in Marcus's character, who refuses to let his sister venture out because of that fear. And Emmett, well, Emmett's that one dude who charges you for everything when you spend the night. Man is ready to kick out a single mother, a kid with a single leg, and a baby who I don't even believe has had a single meal because he's so pro his own life.
I don't know why you came all the way up here. There's nothing left.
Emily eventually convinces Emmett to go into the woods to find Reagan after she runs away looking for a radio signal, and he begrudgingly does so as he finds this girl on the train. But interestingly enough, the trailer for Old did play beforehand, which stated,
"Body has decomposed."
How quickly can that happen?
7 years.
So I'm not exactly sure how they explain some of these bodies that are lying around, or why Homegirl didn't snatch some shoes up, but we are also dealing with creatures that are so extremely fast, and yet somehow the cast has better footwork than Javi Baez in this movie, always finding a way to make it out safe. Reagan then becomes a symbol of hope, as she's the one who wants to help and unite whatever other communities are out there, while Emmett has completely lost faith in humanity. He sees that by the sea message as a trap, and well, he is kind of right. When they reach the docks, they get duped by the exact creepy people that he's been warning them about. Legit, there were 2 scenes in this movie where I squirmed. One, when it looked like McNary's cannibal character was gonna scoop Millie, and when Marcus took the oxygen from the baby when he was trapped. Like, it had me double checking what the rating on this movie was. Luckily, they've got an outline for the third, so they're all able to make it out as Krasinski gets in his Spielberg bag with the callbacks, even referencing Jaws in the intro scene with this pizza shop. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought the dive bit setup worked. They're able to escape and make it out to an island where an entire community is making noise. It turns out that while water doesn't kill them, since we did see them dive into the water in the basement scene in the first, it turns out that they can't swim. So I'm curious how island countries are faring during all of this, if a monster hasn't landed there. I'm curious how many other people were able to make it out, since they explained that the government did try to get more boats out to this specific island, but I mean, you know people during a pandemic. Y'all have seen Bird Box. Y'all have lived in 2020. Only 2 boats made it out there.
Most people had finally given up hope.
We end up meeting Man on Island, who shows them around as they change the conversation about surviving versus thriving to determination versus necessity. I personally thought some of the scenes were blocked awkwardly in this segment, but it's because of how comfortable these people have gotten on this island. When one of the monsters finally makes it to their shore via floating ship, none of them are prepared. Like, we even see Man on Island hiding his kid in a very procedural way, as if it's something that they used to do a lot before, but it's been a minute, you know? And it's that comfort that ends up catching them all off guard. Even when they make it to the radio tower, I hate that they had the dude exposed right there for the taking, but it shows how much of a panic attack he was having for leaving his family behind, and it's that fear that gets him killed.
It definitely ratchets up the tension, and you know they're not safe.
Now again, we still know very little about these aliens, but we do know that all other small animals supposedly no longer exist in this world, according to John. We know that thematically, these aliens represent the fears of the world, whatever that may be to anybody, of being conscious of what noise or words, things you may say that can go out into the world with the risk of you being taken out, not knowing how to explain that danger to your kids and realizing that you may not have an answer for it. I know that Drew Goddard, who wrote Cloverfield, gave Krasinski advice on drafting up his creature, and it does at the end up looking like a mix of Clovey and the Clickers, with the sequel, part 2, really giving off those Naughty Dog vibes. We also gotta mention that Emmett's brother works at a base, meaning that we may even get more info if they ever reconnect in the future, but I'm still questioning how the government hasn't figured out what a 15-year-old has in controlling these creatures with sound waves, because remember, they don't kill to eat, they just want to shut up the noise that affects their sensitive hearing, which I also feel the rules haven't been too clear yet, and it does seem like sometimes they cheat on what they consider noise.
They have to figure out which sounds are safe and which sounds aren't safe.
In the end, Blunt and her 2 boys do live to breathe another day, while Reagan faces these aliens and rips Lee's approach, confronting them head on, using her earpiece to take them down, thus saving the day as it cuts to black.
You know, she's considered somebody with a weakness, and that idea of the weakness becoming the weapon, the idea of the disability becoming the answer.
Yeah.
It's just so powerful.
I love that.
So cool.
Like the first, the fast endings continue to catch me off guard, but it does seem to be the approach that John's been and is going to be taking for future projects, revealing only little tidbits so you're never ahead of the character or know more than they do, thus being able to let the viewer put themselves into their shoes, feet, and contemplate what they would do in that scenario.
Greg Daniels, who created The Office, I remember he said to me one day, he said, your job is not to deliver these lines funny, your job is just to deliver the lines. So I thought, I'll just apply it to this. I'm not making a scary movie. I'm just gonna make a movie about a family, and if their circumstances scare you, then I've done my job right.
I agree. Now, when are we going to get the baby's name? Thank you all for watching this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comments section. I did like the references to Children of Men. Clearly, that was a big visual reference that they were going for. Also, even thematically, obviously, since they did decide to have a kid in this world. But I really also enjoyed the mixing that they had where it was replicating Reagan's hearing. I wish that they actually completely did those scenes from her perspective and weren't cutting back and forth, because I thought that would have been a better way to get into her headspace. But overall, I personally don't think it's better than the first. I think it's a decent, installment to this. I know that they're not calling it a sequel, but it is the second in a trilogy because they have already, worked out an outline for 3. Again, no sequels, but they have mentioned even a spin-off where Jeff Nichols, who did Midnight Special, is supposed to be writing that. And it's just interesting, going back to the original script that they had done where the writers, a lot of people thought that it was going to be combined with Cloverfield. And I remember the writers saying that they didn't want to be swept into a franchise because, well, I guess they wanted to create their own. And I mean, what's better than being able to run it yourself, I guess. So if you do want to watch this in theaters, I will note, though, that Disney and Paramount, they've been fighting for that Dolby Atmos spot. Obviously, Disney wants it for the Cruella songs to be played on that. But I feel that while A Quiet Place does have a lot more IMAX screenings, the sound mixing definitely should be experienced in Dolby, Either way, I think you still get that 480p intro by Krasinski thanking you for coming out to the theater. So if you do catch it in theaters, let me know if you notice a difference between the IMAX and the Dolby. movie. But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. For the Paramount intern/bot, all footage that I've used is promotional. It comes from the press packs. Usually doesn't matter because y'all hit us with the first one anyway, but I still enjoyed both of these movies. I'm looking forward to the third. I'm curious to know y'all's thoughts down below in the comment section. What did you like? What didn't you like? What do you want to see? Who you'd be interested to enter this world as well. But until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and you too can become a franchise.